Nick with Lightburn here, going to be going over how to set up a GA4 property and get it tracking on your site using Google Tag Manager. Let's get into it. You might have noticed if you've recently been hopping into your Universal Analytics account, this notification at the top saying that Universal Analytics will no longer process new data in standard properties beginning July 1st of 2023. Prepare now by setting up and switching over to a Google Analytics 4 property. As you might know, Universal Analytics is going away and is no longer going to be tracking any new data on your website in a little bit over a year or so. Best practice right now is to get a GA4 property on your site, collecting data alongside your current Universal Analytics property, and just kind of setting it up, making sure you got conversion tracking and all that in place. But still, we're using Universal Analytics as the main source of website performance. So if you want to get a new GA4 property set up, you got to first create one. So we'll go down to the left-hand side here in the settings, admin settings section of analytics, and we're going to create a new property by clicking this blue button. By default, it's going to create a Google Analytics 4 property. So we'll name this Lightburn GA4, and I'm going to call this test because we already have one on the site. I'm going to make sure that the time zone is correct, and we'll hit next. I'm going to select a industry category, business and industrial. We are a medium-sized business, and we want to use Google Analytics 4 to do that, and to do that. So we'll create the property, and now we have to set up what's called a data stream. This is essentially a view, equivalent to a view in Universal Analytics, and we're going to set this up on a web property. So we'll go ahead and grab this URL, place it here, get rid of all that extra, and we'll call this stream Lightburn GA4 test. We'll create the stream, and once we do that, we've got our measurement ID. So this is an important number that we'll copy to the clipboard and save for a minute here. You can add GA4 in two different ways. You can either do it by copying and pasting this snippet of code to the head section of your website. This is a G-tag code with a configuration for that measurement ID up here, or you can deploy GA4 through Tag Manager if you already have a Tag Manager container on the site. So that's what we're going to do today. So I've got Tag Manager loaded up here. This is our Tag Manager container that's on a site right now, and we want to add a new tag. We'll go into tag configuration, and you might notice two different GA4 tag types here. One is for a GA4 event. This will be used in conjunction with a GA4 configuration tag. The GA4 configuration tag is just setting up the GA4 property and making sure that it's tracking on the site. So here is the field for the measurement ID. I'm going to go ahead and paste that. I got that over here in the web stream details page as soon as I created the new GA4 property. Here's that measurement ID again. So go ahead and copy that, add it here, and then we want to set up this tag to fire on all pages. So we will set that to all pages, and we'll name it something that we can remember and find easily within Google Tag Manager. So I'll call this GA4 configuration Lightburn test. And we'll click save. So now we have added this GA4 property to the site, and we want to make sure that it's showing up and working properly. So I'll go ahead and click preview. So this is going to bring up the tag assistant, and we can see what's firing on the site and if everything is working correctly. So we added the URL of the site to the tag assistant, and we can see we have two pages here. One is for testing and one is sort of like a testing environment, what's going on in the testing environment. So we can see here all the tags that fired right when we just loaded the site, and we can see here's our GA4 configuration Lightburn test that we just set up with our measurement ID. So we know that that tag is set up and firing properly right now. And we want to make sure that we submit this container, this workspace, and we'll add a little bit of a description here. Add a GA4 to the site. We'll hit publish. And we should be live. So there's a couple of different things we'll do to test and make sure that we are live. First of all, we will go to home in GA4 and we'll go to the real-time report where it'll show us kind of what's going on now. And as you can see, this is me in Milwaukee and this is in GA4. So we see one person in the last 30 minutes and we know that GA4 is connected to the site. I'll reload this once. Sometimes this takes a little bit longer to start showing up, but you should see the GA4 measurement ID and container in here in a second. Reload that a couple times, and if you don't, the end all be all is of course within the GA4 account here, making sure that we do see kind of where we're at. We can see that that's on the home page, and if we kind of click through, let's go to some other internal pages, and we should see this update in a second or two here as well. Okay, so that is how you set up GA4 on your site with Google Tag Manager. Keep an eye out for future videos where we'll be going over how to set up conversion tracking for GA4 with Tag Manager as well.